Motortown Behind the Wheel is an early access driving sim set on the Korean island of Jeju, where you can drive all kinds of vehicles from buses to trucks or even race cars that you can tune to your liking. When you set up the game, you have to create a character. Here you can choose between 20 different styles. After that, we sub a session or join a multiplayer session. Here we can choose if we want to open the session up or stay private. Also, it seems like the dev is planning on more than one map or modding support, since you could choose between maps, but there is only one map so far. Hey, editing cheese here. I noticed my brain lag for a second there. Of course, the map selection is there because when you're setting up MP sessions, you can set up MP sessions with the racetrack maps and not the open world set. Still, I hope for modded map support. As soon we then jump into the game, we end up in a small village called Gangchung. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Here we also directly get bombarded with the first tutorial quest that tells us to drive our car, the Stinger, that's right in front of us. So let's hop in and do the next one. Pick up a hitchhiker. Here we can test out the driving physics of the game while driving the hitchhiker from A to B. First, we can drive the car with 4 different types of controls: keyboard and mouse, gamepad and wheel. All of them works fine. The only thing I noticed while playing is that keyboard controls can quite iffy when you do the comfort missions, but later more on that. For the wheel, I have to mention that it's not a set preset, so you can choose the layout how you want it. I personally have a G29 wheel and Fanatec CSL pedals, so older games don't support a double setup. Motortown supports the double setup. Handling and physics-wise, the game feels okay. The only thing that I feel is a little bit off is the sliding. As soon as you turn a bit at higher speeds, you start to slide. I don't know, but when I drive 200 on the autobahn, my car doesn't slide around from left to right. Otherwise, you can feel the acceleration of the car, and as soon as you hit the grass, you can feel like the car is getting looser and it's pushing the car a little bit back. Sadly, this also sometimes hinders the gameplay, since some of the delivery points for the drugger missions are off the road and you can get stuck with the truck. After about 4.5 kilometers, I came to the hitchhiker's destination and kicked him out of the car, even though I think the hitchhiker was thankful to be able to leave the car after such a horrible ride. As soon as the hitchhiker is out of the car, we get to the next quest. This time it teaches us about the different driving modes. Comfort for slower but safer and stable ride. A sport mode that has higher RPMs and less traction control and etc. Drift mode that lets the car slide even more than normally. Good. But here I have to mention that sport and drift builds up heat every time you get on the throttle, even at lower RPMs. And this could, if the engine is overheating, damage your car, of course. So after changing into drift mode, I get the quest to pick up a pickup truck to do some cargo missions. So let's head to the next pickup. After picking up the pickup, and yeah, I rewrote this 5 times to add this, but coming back to the pickup is the starter truck. And here at the warehouse, I have to select the cargo to transport. Also, we can mix up the cargo, like I did for now. Sadly, one thing that the game doesn't tell you is that you have to fix the cargo. So when you use the flatbed truck for the first time, it could happen that you throw the whole cargo over the whole map. But since I transport small crates in the pickup, I don't have to worry about that. After finishing the delivery, the last tutorial change starts. To get a taxi and do a taxi mission. At the taxi station, I also checked the 2 different taxis. Here we can see that right now I can only use the older looking taxi, since I don't have the necessary level for the other one. As soon as you get into the taxi, you get greeted with the taxi mission setup. In the setup, you can set your preferences, if you want to do the submissions or just drive the passenger from A to B. I personally would recommend just enabling both, since they increase the XP and amount drastically, and it doesn't change anything if you fail them. Earlier in the video I already mentioned the comfort mission regarding the controls. As soon as I pick up the passenger that has the comfort submission, you get a blue circle at the bottom with a white dot in it. While you carry the passenger with this mission, you have to hold the white dot in the middle of the circle by steering slightly and be gentle on the gas brake. And as you may already have guessed, when you use keyboard and you have only full traverse of brake and gas, it's getting hard to hold a dot in the middle of the blue circle. Even with the leeway the mission gives you, it can get quite ugly under braking. In the end, you end up tapping the S key to brake, which looks kind of funny. Here I would have hoped for an easier system for keyboard users, so instead of instant 100% on the pedals, a slowly building up power. After finishing the taxi ride, the tutorial is also over. For some strange reasons, the tutorial doesn't go for buses, emergency vehicles or the racing at all. I don't know if it's getting added later on, but right now, after finishing the taxi quest, you just get thrown in the world without any direction. Since I played the game already a little bit before, I plan to go back to Jeju and check out the car dealership to see how much money I need to get a basic taxi or a pickup to just start off with our own vehicle. But why should you even bother to buy your own vehicle instead of using the other ones? Since you just can hop in every car that is parked at every mission point. Well, besides emergency vehicles and buses, you always have to pay a third of your income to the owner. We actually saw that in the finishing screen of the taxi ride. So what is of course a good thing to do where you don't have any paying card? Of course, the driving a bus line. So I went to the bus terminal at Jeju to choose a bus to drive. Right now I can only use the VW bully type to start with. So when you get in, you can choose the line that you want to drive. You can always drive every line at every time of day, which is a good meme when you do the school bus route that is always packed even at 3 AM. While I did this route, I also got a wanted level. Yeah, Motortown has police that tries to force you to drive in line via fines. One thing that I noticed quickly was that you can trick the system. So for example, at the point of recording, you could just overtake cars on the right instead of the left, and the police wouldn't care at all. Which of course is a nice meme, especially when you overtake the police car. In the end, you also don't have to stop at all. As long as your destination is a bit away, you can just run away. Yeah, the game has a better police system than Cyberpunk, so you don't have to fear that the game is spawning a police car on your head. I personally only stop when I'm close to the destination, since the police just follows you and gives you an extra fine for running. After finishing the first loop, you can notice the route just restarts without questioning. So if you want to farm money and XP for your next car, you just drive the loop over and over again. While I do the second loop to get a level 3 in buses, let's talk about the map design, since we saw the south side of the island quite a bit. When I first started up the game, I thought it would be set on a US-based island. Why? Well, when you check out the assets of the game, nothing in the game shouts Korean at all. Of course, cars are kind the same all over the world, since the same companies deliver them everywhere, but vegetation and the buildings are just the standard low poly houses that you can find in every game that is normally set in the US. When I see the description of the game, that it tells that it's on Jeju, I would think that the game tries to give me a more East Asian vibe. And before you ask about the assets, I searched for them through the Unreal Asset Store to see if the assets were bought. I personally didn't find them, and I think they are made by the community and the developer itself. But to clarify the other point, I don't care if they're bored. The game is, as far as I know, done by only one person. So if they decide buy assets to improve the development, all the power to them. As long as they are well implanted in the game, I don't care if there are assets or not. Next to the vibe, the map is also kinda bare-boned. Everything is just a grassy hill, with some trees at the streets. Nothing that could bring up some life into it. Besides the hill actually. Like the big hill in the middle, is well done. Why not the whole map doing like this? But a good part of the map is the street layout and the variety. You have all types of streets and they are in a good layout. You can get everywhere with different type of roads, dirt roads, bigger roads, everything is there. Also, the different servers have different physics. That shows that then the map could be way more variable in the approach if it wouldn't be so bare-bone, just a circle around and then some trees around it. I personally hope that the map gets some love in the later stages of the development, since it's only early access game. Or, as I said in the beginning, I hope for modded support, so that modders could bring in some amazing maps. We see it in ETS, for example. They took the basic map and splashed it out in the pro mods. Why not like that? But coming back to the game itself. After completing the second loop, I hit a level 3 in buses. This means I could use the larger bus. But driving the same loop over again, it's kinda boring, even when it's one of the strongest money makers in the game. So time to switch it up and drive the pickup again, to level my truck level. But this time I used the pickup from the car dealership. Since when you use this one, you get a fixed rent rate, which means that I pay 30 gold every 10 minutes. But via this rent option, I get around the 31% cut that I would normally pay for the cars at a warehouse. Also, since I now deliver a pallet, I have to fix it on the car, otherwise I would lose my cargo on the next turn. While I bring this pallet to the toy factory, let's talk about the thing I touched already several times, the XP and the progression. The game has 5 different skills that streamlines the progression of the game. General driving skill that is used in all categories, and specific ones for taxi, bus, truck and racing. These skills lock the different vehicles of each category to have a target to grind to. Otherwise the skills don't change anything. XP progression wise, it's absolutely no hard grind. You can get the max needed level for every vehicle quite quickly. So even when the game is set in Korea, it's surely no Asian grind MMO. What is actually a good point. For the money, you can take the casual approach, with lengthened the progression quite a bit to gather the money for several vehicles. But if you are more the speedrunner type and you want to get several cars quickly, you of course can gain the system. When you want to cheese the system, you can do 2 things, since these 2 are the most profitable ones. Option A, the school bus route in the largest bus, obviously. Option B, take a semi-truck and transport containers from warehouse to the rest stop on the hill. This option is a little bit nerfed since last patch, but still a valuable option. These options yield you at the moment the highest profit, but I personally feel like that you don't need to cheese the system, since all the chop vehicles can just get rendered and driven anyway without buying. So it's totally up to you if you want to take longer with the grind or just cheese the system. When I finished the delivery of the pallet at the factory, we can see that I cannot get any payload here since the factory is empty, which perfectly sends us to a good thing with the tracking sphere of the game. So let's change to my other character real quick to skip the level grind. Most of the cargo is set in a production line. So for example, here at the construction site we can pick up sand to deliver to the concrete plant. So let's fill this truck up and head over to the plant. There we can see, after delivering the sand, how the sand is processed to concrete. And you then can pick up the concrete with the fitting concrete mixer truck and bring it back to the construction site. As you notice, this is a good production line to mix up the delivery process. Also, this perfectly fits for multiplayer sessions, since you can set up fixed cargo lines with your friends, where one of you is delivering the sand and the other one the concrete. I personally love it when you see progress from your deliveries. A thing that I feel a lack of in games like ETS, where you drop random goods without seeing any progress. After grinding money via truck, taxi or buses, we can check out the other options of the game. The racing. So time to head over to the car dealership and see what I can buy for my money. I think the Stella is the best starting option. But of course, stock is boring, so let's tune it. Yeah, you can tune the vehicles to your liking, which is also quite in depth. You can change basically everything around your engine. You also get a graph of how the new parts change the performance. So, have fun with it. After wasting a good amount of money, it's time to set some PBs on race tracks. Right now you have a handful of tracks all over the map, from street circuits to dirt ovals. So everyone should find its favorite track. I personally like the Harbor Raceway because it's, of all the circuits, has this street circuit feeling. Here you can race against friends or hot laps as long as you want, and get race XP for each lap that you complete. Next to the racetracks on the map, you can also set up sessions on maps that are racetracks only, where you can race on more realistic tracks. But be careful, you can damage your car when you're crashing it. And next to the tuning costs, you can also put a lot of money in repairs. After some laps, I think it's time to change to the emergency vehicles. Here you have 2 options, police and ambulances. You can get a fitting car at a police station or the hospital, of course. Let's start with the ambulance. To use the ambulance, you have to have level 10 in taxi and level 2 in racing. When you have these skills, you can just hop into an ambulance at a hospital near Jeju City. Ambulance missions are technically not different to taxi missions. The only thing is that you always drive to the hospital and have always the urgent submission. Money-wise, it's quite decent when you have to travel far and get a high level of urgency bonus. Next to the taxi ambulance missions, as said, you can get into police chaser and do some police missions. Just as a heads up, these are of course more fun in MP when you are chasing a real player instead of an AI. But nevertheless, let's go into a police chaser at a police station. Here you get sometimes directly a mission or have to patrol the area first. This can take sometimes a good amount of time. But before I talk about the police missions itself, let's talk about the driving AI. Because that of course is the focus of these missions. The AI itself is the weakest spot of the game. The more you drive around, the more stupid stuff you're gonna notice. Firstly, the AI are most of the time way slower than they are allowed or could drive on the roads. Next to that, you face a quite ruthless AI. On the one side, they are quite safe in driving, standing everywhere, and on the other side, you have the same car cutting you off or even crashing into you. Another thing I noticed is that the cars don't really have a sense of right of way or a ruling like which car has the right of way. You can test this out for yourself, since every car has next to the normal cruise control also a self-driving assist, which is driving the car to the mission marker itself like a good old Tesla. You can see how safe and sometimes reckless the AIs drive, but hopefully this is getting changed later on in development. Comparing the ETS to AI when the game got released and the AI now, they are two different worlds. But coming back to the police mission, so far I'm about 13 minutes into my patrol, and suddenly I get a message that there is one subject. So I headed towards the subject that is specially marked via this big marker in front of you. Quite soon I saw the taxi and stopped it and got 400 gold for it. In the end, I waited 30 minutes to raise 30 seconds to get 400 gold. As you may notice, the police missions can be quite hit or miss, and obviously they're MP based, so yeah. After finishing the police mission, we kinda have done everything that is in the game so far. So let's head over to the bits that I want to talk about. Editing cheese here again. One day after recording this, the game got an update that added a change in the truck economy, which balanced it a little bit more out, a garbage truck shop that is right now in the background, and a new cargo line with the furniture factory and their stores. One thing that I didn't mention so far is the amazing dusk, dawn and night lighting. Here you can see how good low poly can look. Also next to this you can explore the map to find some really nice Easter eggs, like the one in the bank at the southern part of the map. I don't want to get too much into it, since you should enjoy that yourself. Motortown also has a radio implementation, like ETS or Farming Simulator. So if you want to hear your favorite sim radio while grinding the school bus route, you totally can do that. You can also buy houses everywhere off the map, so you can quickly travel from each city to the other city. I think that is everything I can tell you right now about Motortown. So let's head over to the conclusion. Motortown is surely already in a good state for an early access game. The physics are decent, the missions are decent, it has a cargo system and a ton of different vehicles that you can drive, and they're adding more and more vehicles and more stuff in it. So for the price tag of $12.50, it is just amazing. So I personally just hope that the project doesn't die and we get a modding support, or we could drive around custom maps and racetracks. In the end, if you like ETS or similar driving games, go for Motortown. For the stage and price, you can't do anything wrong. It's an absolute hit for me so far. And with that, thank you for watching my review of Motortown. This time I tried a different approach to my other reviews, but I still hope you enjoyed it and I could help you out. If so, and you are interested in my other reviews that I did, then check them out in the playlist that is highlighted in the top right or in the description. Have a nice day, and hopefully you will have a lot of fun with Motortown.